Every year, ticks infect hundreds of thousands of people with Lyme disease and a dozen other illnesses. You spray your kids, your dogs, your yard with chemicals to keep them away. But there's a plant, native to America, growing wild right now, that repels ticks just as well as the DEET in those sprays. The US of Agriculture proved it in a lab. It's safe for pets, and almost no one is using it. Stay with me, because the story of how we found out is stranger than you'd think. Picture this plant for a second, because you have almost certainly walked right past it. It grows as a loose, arching shrub, maybe 4 to 6 feet tall, with broad green leaves. For most of the year, it looks like nothing special. Just another bush at the edge of the woods. And then, in late summer and fall, it does something that stops people in their tracks. Clusters of berries erupt along its branches in a color you almost never see in nature. Not red, not orange. A vivid, electric, almost metallic purple. Tight rings of glossy purple beads wrapped right around the stems. Once you have seen it, you never forget it. The plant is called American beautyberry, and the name is no exaggeration. But the beauty is not the secret. The secret is in the leaves. And to understand why those leaves matter so much, you first need to understand exactly what you're up against when a tick is involved. Because most people have no idea how dangerous these creatures truly are. A tick is not like a mosquito. A mosquito lands, bites, and leaves in seconds. A tick does something far worse. It crawls onto you, often onto a part of your body you cannot easily see. The back of a knee, the scalp, the waistline. It buries its head into your skin, and then it stays, for hours, for days, feeding the entire time. And while it feeds, it can pump bacteria, viruses, and parasites directly into your bloodstream. The most famous of these is Lyme disease. And here's the part that should genuinely frighten you. Lyme is not a one-and-done illness you shake off in a week. If it is not caught early, it can become a chronic nightmare. Joint pain, crushing fatigue, neurological problems, heart issues that can follow a person for years, sometimes for the rest of their life. And Lyme is only one of more than a dozen diseases ticks are known to carry. The numbers are staggering. Health authorities estimate that hundreds of thousands of Americans are diagnosed with Lyme disease every single year, and the real number is believed to be far higher because so many cases go unreported or misdiagnosed. And here is the worst part. It is getting worse, not better. Tick populations are expanding into areas they never used to live. Warmer winters mean more ticks survive to spring. They are spreading north, spreading into suburbs, into manicured lawns, into the parks where your children play, and the yards where your dogs roam. The threat is no longer just for deep woods hikers. It is in the grass, at the edge of your own property. And ticks are patient hunters in a way that makes them especially dangerous. They climb to the tip of a blade of grass or a low branch, stretch out their front legs, and simply wait, sometimes for days, for a warm body to brush past. This is called questing. They do not jump, they do not fly, they wait. And when your dog runs through this grass, or your child's pant leg brushes a bush, the tick latches on and begins its slow climb to find bare skin. By the time most people notice a tick, it has already been attached and feeding for hours. The diseases it carries do not transfer instantly, which means the single most important thing is to stop the tick from ever attaching in the first place. Repelling them, not removing them, is the real game. And that is exactly what this plant does. So what do we do about it? We reach for chemicals. And this is where the story really begins. The standard defense against ticks is a chemical called DEET. You know it, even if you do not know the name. It is the active ingredient in the vast majority of bug sprays sold in every store in the country. DEET works. Let me be fair and honest about that. It genuinely repels ticks and mosquitoes, and for serious exposure it is a real tool. But DEET comes with a catch that the bottle does not advertise loudly. It is a harsh synthetic chemical. It can irritate skin and eyes. It can cause reactions in sensitive people. It famously dissolves certain plastics and synthetic fabrics. Think about that for a second. It can melt plastic, and we spray it directly onto our skin and onto our children. Many people are deeply uncomfortable, coating their kids in it day after day, all summer long. And for your pets, many chemical repellents are outright dangerous if licked or absorbed. So every summer, millions of families face the same miserable choice. Risk the ticks, or coat yourself and your loved ones in chemicals. For most people, those are the only two options they have ever been given. But there was always a third option. It was just buried. And the story of how it was rediscovered is one of the strangest in modern science. I'll tell you exactly how it happened. And it starts not in a laboratory, but with an old man and a grandfather's memory. Decades ago, there was a scientist named Charles Bryson who worked as a botanist for the United States of Agriculture. And Bryson remembered something from his childhood in the hills of northeastern Mississippi. His grandfather and the country folks of that region had an old trick to keep biting bugs away from themselves and from their farm animals. They would walk out to a certain wild bush, snap off some branches, crush the leaves, and rub them on their skin and tuck them under the harnesses of their mules and horses. and the bugs would leave them alone. The bush was American beautyberry. Now, for most of modern history, that kind of story gets dismissed. Folklore, old wives' tale, country superstition. Scientists hear these things all the time, and the overwhelming majority of folk remedies, when tested, turn out to do nothing at all. Bryson could easily have let his grandfather's memory stay just that, a memory. But he didn't. He mentioned it to a chemist colleague at the USDA named Charles Cantrell. And Cantrell decided to do something simple but powerful. He decided to actually test it. This is the part that changed everything. Stay with me, because what they found in that lab is the whole reason this video exists. Cantrell and his team took beautyberry leaves and went to work isolating the chemical compounds inside them, pulling the plant apart molecule by molecule to find out what, if anything, was actually repelling the bugs. And they found them. Specific compounds with names like calicarpinol and intermediol. These were the active ingredients, the plant's own natural chemistry. The team then tested these compounds against biting insects, and the folklore held up. The compounds genuinely repelled mosquitoes. The grandfather had been right all along, but the team did not stop at mosquitoes. They pushed further, and this is the finding that matters most for you. Researchers tested those same beautyberry compounds against ticks, specifically the black-legged tick, the very tick that spreads Lyme disease, and the compounds repelled them too. A plant that an old farmer's grandfather used to protect his mules was now showing, in a government laboratory, that it could fend off the single most dangerous disease-carrying tick in America. And the strength of the effect is what truly surprised them. When the researchers compared beautyberry's natural compounds against DEET, the gold standard, the chemical the entire bug spray industry is built on, the plant held its own. In repellency tests, the beautyberry compounds performed comparably to DET against the insects tested. Think about what that means. A wild bush, growing free in the woods, producing its own chemistry, matched the most widely used synthetic repellent on the planet. Not a weak, half-effective folk substitute. A genuine rival to the chemical you have been buying your whole life. The plant the tribes used, the plant the old farmer swore by, was standing toe-to-toe with modern industrial science, and holding the line. Let that sink in. The folk remedy worked. The science confirmed it. One USDA scientist even remarked that traditional folklore remedies usually lead nowhere when you actually research them, and that beautyberry was a striking exception. The thing your great-grandparents might have known, the thing the tribes of this land knew long before them, was real all along. Because that is the other half of this story. Long before any USDA scientist crushed a leaf in a lab, the indigenous peoples of North America already knew. Planted along the borders of your yard, near walkways, around patios and decks and pet runs, the exact places where ticks tend to sneak in from taller grass and brush. A line of beautyberry along your property edge becomes a living, beautiful, working barrier. Now, how to actually use it? The traditional method is the simplest one. Take a handful of fresh leaves, crush them firmly in your hands to release the oils, and rub them onto your skin and clothing, and gently onto your pet's coat, before heading outside. That crushed leaf method is exactly what the farmers and the tribes did, and it is exactly what the USDA tested. You can also dry and store the leaves to crush later. For your yard as a whole, simply having healthy beautyberry shrubs growing in the right spots contributes to an environment that ticks and biting insects find less welcoming. One honest note, because I will always be straight with you. Scientists are clear that planting a single bush in the corner of a giant yard is not a magic force field. The strongest effect comes from the crushed leaves used directly, the way it was traditionally done, and from having the plant established where it matters. For heavy tick exposure, like deep woods hiking in a high-risk area, it is reasonable to keep stronger options available too. Beautyberry is not a gimmick, and it is not snake oil. It is a real, science-backed, time-tested natural repellent. Used correctly, it is a powerful tool that most people don't even know exists. And there is a bonus you get for free. Beautyberry is not just a bug repellent. Those stunning purple berries feed dozens of species of birds through the lean months of fall and winter, bringing songbirds and wildlife right into your yard. And more birds means more insects eaten, which means even fewer pests overall. A quiet chain reaction that starts with one beautiful shrub. The berries themselves, while not the tastiest raw, are used by people to make a surprisingly delicious jelly with a flavor all its own. So you get a tick repellent, a bird sanctuary, a splash of unforgettable color, and a homemade jelly. All from one tough, easy, native plant. So here's where we land. Every summer you are handed two options. Live with the ticks, or coat your family in chemicals. But there was always a third path. A native plant, growing wild across half of America, that the original peoples of this land used for thousands of years. A plant whose bug-repelling power was proven in a government laboratory, shown to fend off the very ticks that carry Lyme disease as effectively as DEET, but safe enough to rub straight onto your skin and your dog's fur. A plant that costs nothing, grows itself, and asks for almost nothing in return. It was never hidden by a conspiracy. It was something quieter and almost sadder. It was simply forgotten, drowned out by the noise of 1,000 bright bottles on a store shelf. An old man in Mississippi remembered it. A scientist was curious enough to test it, and the tribes of this land never forgot it at all. The bush is still out there, still growing wild at the edges of the southern woods, still throwing out those impossible purple berries every fall, still holding the same chemistry in its leaves that protected people and animals for centuries. It does not need a factory. It does not need a patent. It does not need permission from anyone. It just grows, waiting for the people who are ready to remember what we were so carefully taught to forget. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon.